So the plan now that the developer has decided to come forward with is a 14-lot townhome development, which consists of 7 structures, which are considered duplexes. So 2 attached units, a total of 14 units, as shown on the all front along 36th Street. And duplex units are principally permitted use in the R1 zone. We have complied with all proper lot width requirements, lot area requirements, and we're also in compliance with the setback variance that was approved in the past. So we also have engineering plans that show proposed stormwater detention area on the western end of the property. Everything drains that direction northwest towards the existing railroad tracks. There'll be a detention area built there to control the stormwater runoff. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. I believe everyone has a copy of the plan that shows the layout of the units, so I'll be glad to answer any technical or engineering related questions if you have any.
Can you give us why you went with the 100-foot?
I'm sorry, 100-foot?
You got the 100-foot right of way there, which is usually a large.
Well, that was platted years ago, early on when that area was first developed, and for whatever reason, a 100-foot right of way was granted or designed. So the property line then is 50 feet from the center of 36th Street, and with a 25-foot setback, the building would be then 75 feet from the center line of the road, which is far beyond what a typical front yard would be if it was designed today. Typically, it would be a front yard of 40 feet, but the right-of-way is typically 50 feet max, so it would be a 25 from the center line, and then so you're at 65. So we're beyond that by an additional 10 feet.
So you're just meeting the requirements. It's nothing.
That's right. We're not changing the
that.
right-of-way. That 100-foot right-of-way's been there for
Right.
years. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jason, it would appear that Tract A's access would be off of the cul-de-sac on West Jefferson.
That's correct.
What about access to the storm detention area? Is there a provision for access in there that maybe I'm just missing for maintenance?
Not real. I mean, it'll be kind of in a yard state. I mean, where someone might park to maintain that, that's probably off of West Jefferson, to be honest. I'd say where any kind of maintenance vehicle would be.
Okay, but
just
there's
as
not
far
a
as mowing or
dedicated
whatever.
easement
I was
intended
going
at
to
this
say, you
point.
don't have one in there. How would they get there?
No,
Around?
because that tract would remain, if for whatever reason it was subdivided further or we needed an easement to cross another piece of property, yeah, we would have to include an easement. But since it's all contiguous.
It's all part of Tract A though, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so.
Okay. And I guess another question is, what are your plans for the remainder of Tract A?
They're not 100% sure yet on that. I just kind of want to see how this initial phase 1 goes, and there may just be some other, a couple duplexes or whatever built back there, but right now there's no plans for the rest of it. Probably just, like I said, wait and see once these get built out and see how that goes and see if they want to change their game plan at all.
Are there any questions that anyone has that you'd like to ask? Please come up and identify yourself. If you don't mind waiting, Jason, in case
Sure.
you can answer the question for her and for us.
My question, who is going to be constructing these?
Come up to the,
Yes,
here we
ma'am.
go. Sorry.
Loudly. No, UC Cena Development. It's a Thai-based construction company. You go online, you don't find anything about them. So who is going to be constructing these?
Senior Development is just a corporation that was formed for the partners that purchased the property and will be developing the property. They will either hire a general contractor to construct the townhomes, or they will subcontract the townhomes themselves, but they are the ones that just own the property and will be owning the duplexes.
Why did you go through a tie-based organization to do that? And who are these partners?
What do you mean a tie-based? I'm not
Well,
following you.
Senior is a tie-based construction company from when you go online.
Tie-based, I'm not.
Yeah.
Tie as in.
THII, like Thailand.
No. CENA is just a abbreviation for the partners' names.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and ma'am, if you could state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Nancy Rayberg. I live at 4015 Phillips Avenue, and this summer we'll have lived there for 55 years. So I've been in this neighborhood a long time. I have something to say eventually, but that this isn't the time yet, right?
Are there any other questions that you'd like to ask? Please come forward.
My name is John Wines. I live at 747 West Jefferson, which kind of backs up to 36 there, which, our question, and I represent a few, well, I'll let them speak for themselves, is, you talked about Tract 1. We are not familiar with that, and having an access off of West Jefferson. We're concerned about traffic and traffic going through there and possibly a road at some point. We are at a dead end, kind of somewhat of a cul-de-sac, and as most people are concerned, children and things like, all my neighbors here have children that are young age, and we are concerned about the upbeat of traffic once this is developed. And as you said, Tract 1, which I went online to see all this, your site is shut down, or at least it was for me. But to see what you're talking about with maintenance and all that, we would like to know this.
This is the West Jefferson cul-de-sac.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the development they're planning right now. This is what I was asking him about, what they're planning on doing with the
Tract A,
the
yes.
rest of Tract A. And he said they might put in a couple more,
Townhomes.
Yes.
Yes.
so just leave that here for anybody that wants to see it.
Can you reassure us that there will not be a road put through there? I mean, other than maybe,
The units being subdivided along 36, their only way to access their properties off 36. They will not have any access off the back. Now, that ain't to say maybe when they're down on this end buildings, there might be a contractor parks back here or whatever, but typically any traffic for the homeowners would be off 36. They won't have legal access off the back because it will be owned by a different company.
okay, is there any guarantees that there won't be a thing put back there? I mean, to keep, well, aside from the contractors.
Well, that's what I just asked, was what they plan to do with the rest of Tract A. And you
There's
said,
no plan at this time, and when that plan is figured out, you would have to come back to the city for approval.
sure,
Okay, thank you so much.
yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Krista Brookshire. I live at 847 North 36th Street, which is right in front of this. Have a few questions. The retention pond, who is responsible for the maintenance? Sides fall in, drainage doesn't work, who is responsible if these units are sold and not rented? Is there an HOA? Who is responsible for maintaining the retention pond?
Yes, there will be an once, during construction, the developer, he has an obligation up to a point where the majority of the lots are sold, and then from that point, the HOA would be responsible for maintenance. And actually, there's a maintenance obligation that the developer has to sign before the city approves construction, that they sign basically outlining and for them obligating themselves to that maintenance, that they have to sign, and it's a requirement of the city.
Okay.
And these duplexes, let's be clear here, the duplexes would be sold as condominiums with an HOA?
No condominium, just Each
Just
lot
out
can
and
be
out?
sold, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, is the sewer capacity going to fit these added homes? Do we know that this is going to not need redone? You know, most of the houses were built in the 1950s, even though some people have had it fixed from their house to the road. What's still under the street sewer system is the same that's always been, is what people that's lived there for years and years have told me. Is that going to handle added sewer usage?
Yeah, the sewer infrastructure that there was designed for in all of 36th Street and probably a lot of other surrounding properties. When it was installed, there are actually service lines that go under 36th Street that this project will be allowed to tap into. So it was approved, and any additional flow from this project was accounted for when that was installed several years ago.
Okay. And none of us were able to view this, and we were hoping there would be something we could see, because I polled the neighborhood. One of the main issues was added traffic, and our question was, will there not be, and it doesn't look like it. It looks like each duplex has an entry to the street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Most of us in our mind pictured one entrance then that went in, instead of multiple entrances to an already busy road, one entrance that led into like a subdivision that went up to everybody's house. So, I mean, that's a shock that there's going to be that many driveways now. You know, the traffic is...
Have you done any kind of traffic study?
Well, we usually don't do traffic studies when it's basically just continuation of a subdivision. So for single-family lots, it's one driveway per home or per unit. The only way there might be one is if, say, if each unit is to be sold, which is a subdivided lot where they buy the unit and the property itself, they have to have their own driveway. So the only way one entrance might be is if it was a self-contained multifamily development, which is not permitted in this zone. We would have to get a conditional use permit, but then that would all be owned as one parcel and then be a rental units basically, multifamily. So these are all intended to be single family with their own each individual driveway, just like a typical subdivision.
I want to stress that there does need to be some kind of traffic evaluation. North 36th Street is a very busy street, and if you don't live on it, you don't realize it. It's a cut-through road. Most people on Minnick, because once you turn the curve, it's Minnick. We've got the neurorestorative people that are down on Tipton Avenue. Their vans run constantly through the day. We are on the Iron Mom route. We are on Bike World route. People that live on Minnick and other areas come down North 36 because their alternatives are smaller, narrow roads, and we are a little wider than those other alternatives. Last year, I asked when we came here, when they wanted to put them just 15 feet from the road, we asked that some kind of traffic be done. We were told that those boxes don't work in residential areas. Because there's a potential for abuse. If you live on it, you'll just ride your car up and down it. Then somebody needs to click through the day and measure, because it's a very busy road. My concern is people fly around this curve and you're gonna have driveways, it just seems extremely unsafe. That's all the questions I have for right now.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'll just have one question.
Sure.
Will there be
Ma'am,
a
ma'am.
fence or anything around the
Ma'am.
waterway?
Please give us your name and your address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all
Sandy
right.
Johnson, I live on Minnick at 3611 Minnick.
Thank you.
And I just want to know about the retention. I'm concerned about children. They love water. And if they're going to be going over there playing around the retention pond, will there be a fence or some kind of,
Well,
well, I'm asking you, and I know you don't know, but that's.
normally a retention pond is for overflow, more so, it won't be like a pond. But I think he
It's pretty
can,
big, what they've got dug out.
he can,
Intended to delay the runoff,
exactly.
but you know how that's maybe designed,
Yeah,
Jason?
it's a dry detention area. It's basically kept in a lawn state. And then there's a berm down on the low side by the road that's built up a couple feet or whatever it may be. So 99% of the time it should be dry, and that, the only time you'll see water in it is during like a flash flood event, and it is designed to hold the water back. And so there'll
Until
be
it
a
can
little.
soak in?
No, it goes through an outlet pipe.
Oh,
So
okay.
it'll continually run in until there's so much, if it's a flash flood, then the design is for that berm to hold the water back, but then it'll still run on out and then it'll stay dry. I mean, it might be damp, after a big rain, but no, it's meant to be dry.
So there won't be any fence around it or
No, ma'am.
just, okay.
There'll be some privacy trees that have been planted along the railroad, but the fence, they're really on the high side, right behind the duplexes. You won't even know where the edge of the pond or the area is because it just gradually blends into the ground.
Who will pay the insurance? Oh, I'm sorry. Who will pay for the insurance for that waterway in case there is any children that get hurt or, how does that insurance?
The HOA sometimes will pick up just the general liability policy. I don't know that for a fact, but I mean, ultimately it would be theirs once the entire development is sold out. The HOA would, be the responsible party for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come up.
My name's Megan Broussard. I live at 784 North 37th Street. I haven't had a chance to look at these, but I was curious about the train volume with all of these buildings coming into homes. I know probably all the rest of the neighbors have noticed an increase in the sound of the train since all the trees have been taken out. If there's plans to build a wall or some kind of a sound barrier for the new tenants and for the rest of the neighborhood since the trees are gone.
No sound barrier necessarily, but there have been some trees planted, I believe, right along the railroad. So as those grow and become more mature, that will help with the sound. And then obviously once the structures are all built, that's going to help with the sound as well.
I mean,
But obviously right now with it being bare,
I didn't know if-
it probably is.
yeah, a part of that or in addition to like maybe petitioning to have like the train stop blowing its horn 17 times in a row, like when it goes through.
I tried to say that again.
The train
luck
does
with that
blow the
one.
horn about 17 times from 6 o'clock in the morning till after 9 o'clock at night every day. So that might be something you would want to work in there.
Well, again, those trees have been planted already, and once they mature, that's definitely going to help.
Yeah,
I was going to say, we have nothing to do with train schedules,
I
unfortunately.
know that's definitely another thing, but I just thought this is something that probably the rest of the community would appreciate.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Anyone else have a question they'd like to ask Jason? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Kelly Sockley, and I live on 797 North 36th Street, right across the street from it. When that water flows out of that drainage area in pipes, where is it going?
It goes under the railroad.
Okay, so it's going out like away, it's not going to the sewage?
No, it's
Okay.
it's
Because we have
pipe.
a really high water table there.
It's a pipe under the railroad tracks
Gotcha.
into a ditch that's across the way
Okay.
on the other side.
Okay.
And it-
Because I wasn't sure about that. We have a really high water table, and when there was a house there, I moved in there when I was about 36 years ago as a kid, and there was sorry, repeating myself, there's a house and there was a basement, and the power was turned off, and the basement was always full of water all the way up to the top. The water, their table there is really high, and the ground is always completely soggy. So I was concerned about that being a large pond, like of water, and there being like mosquitoes and such, because we just had, again, we're just hearing about this, we're not quite sure what's going on. But that's a concern that might hold water more than you would think if you didn't know the area. So that's just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question about drainage. My name's Caleb Darnell at 754 West Jefferson, and I have a question about the drainage. You talk about the pipe that runs underneath the railroad tracks. Is that on West Jefferson Street, or is that actually past West Jefferson, past that dead end?
No, it's,
We've never seen this before, so,
general area.
because that drainage, that pipe runs through the middle of my yard.
It's not shown on here. It's generally in this area, because I know we're also working on this project over here, and there's a ditch.
Okay,
that
so
runs
it's not,
across the-
it's not right here.
Oh, no.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, it's down on this end.
okay. Yeah, no further questions.
Thank you.
Well, I got one more thought.
Sure.
What if we do get a lot of rain and there is a mosquito issue? Who's responsible for that? Like if it gets stopped and it doesn't want to run off, or, I guess you guys have allowed for all of that stuff,
The
but,
intent is it should, and if there's a pipe that's there permanently, so if the water is held in that pond at all, then that pipe's probably clogged up, and the maintenance, it falls back on the maintenance, so, and that would be the HOA's responsibility to keep that pipe clean to where the
Yeah.
water can flow out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would be on them, I suppose.
And that
Okay.
would be something that they would want to do because they're backing right up to that.
Yeah, it's in their backyards. These people aren't gonna want
Exactly.
that. So if you're not wanting it at your place, these people here definitely don't want it because it's right out their back patio.
right, but wanting it and doing something about it might be two different things, so,
Well, like I said, I would think they're gonna be much more motivated to make sure they don't have a mosquito trap in their backyard too, since they live right there.
right, okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Sure.
I was asked by a lady that I talked to, she lives at 764 North 36th Street. She's an elderly lady. She owns the property, her house is here. She owns the lot and then this land. Her sons bought her that land, thank goodness, to keep any development being too close to her house. She is concerned because they are coming in on her land to access this land. And she did ask that that not be happening.
That's,
She's an elderly lady, she could not come tonight, I mean, she doesn't get out at night.
She has this, the Truett property here?
Yes.
She owns that, and so there's been construction traffic on her?
Yes.
And no, they should not be doing that at all.
That's
And
not.
what we can do is make sure that line is marked so any contractors will know.
She appreciates that. It became more of an issue, there was that turnaround that you all dug out. Now that that's gone, there's kind of like a driveway, maybe it was years ago, and a lot of people are using that, and she is concerned because it is her property.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure that that property line's staked so they'll know to.
Okay, she would appreciate that.
Sure.
One of my major concerns is, and it's already happened, I've got some pictures, and I know it's inevitable, but the mud on the street, I mean, you're gonna have 7, how are you gonna keep mud off the street? Because it's already on the street.
So as part of the city has what they call an erosion prevention and sediment control permit, which has been issued by the city, and there are guidelines that the contractors have to follow. And if there are instances where things like that are happening, then if it's not corrected, they can be, they would be in violation of that permit. So that is something that there are what we call construction entrances and things like that that would have to be maintained. And so if those issues reoccur, then they could be in violation of that and they would need to correct it.
Okay, if it's occurring, who can we contact? Do we contact someone here?
Probably
Would be
the Public Works
inspection.
Department, because they're the ones that issue the erosion
Okay.
permits.
Before we leave, could I have a name and number?
I'll give
Josh?
you my name and number after the meeting too. So, it was a subcontractor, I know who you're talking about, so.
Okay,
He's
I'll
the
give you-
owner, the
I'll give you
developer.
my contact.
okay.
Yeah, I'll get anything corrected like that.
Because that's already an issue, and I know there's no, I know you have to have some kind of gravel that you're supposed to be going on, and I know it's an early enough stage that that's not there, but, I can't imagine with this many houses coming off that street that this isn't gonna be a problem. I also have a major concern about parking on the road. You know, so-and-so's working here, so-and-so just wants to come in and see how everything's going, so there's parking on the road. It's not a huge issue now, it has happened some, but it's only gonna get worse. What is the laws on construction people? I know if you have to deliver, you know, what is the blockage of this road is already an issue with just what little they've been doing. It's a concern.
Yeah, I'm not real sure. I don't know if the zoning ordinances have any laws or regulations. That's probably a Paducah Police Department issue, I would guess. I don't know.
Do you all know of any on-street parking laws that would fall under North 36th Street?
Well, normally for construction, their dump trucks, things like that are all supposed to be off-street.
That's what I thought.
And you'd ask for a name and number.
Yes.
And so I would contact the same person. And the name I'm going to give you is Greg Giebert in engineering.
Okay.
And he may not be 100% the right person, but he can get you where you need to go.
Assistant, he's the
Assistant Storm, he's our
engineer.
stormwater engineer.
Okay.
And the number is 444-8511.
So, okay, so the off-street, is there some way we can find out about that? What's quote legal, not legal? How much on the road do you anticipate that this is gonna entail?
Well, I mean, probably, technically speaking, nobody should park on the street, but, you know, given construction zones and things like that, people do. Not saying they're, so as far as who polices that, I'm not real sure. But starting with,
Yeah, I would start with Greg because being a phase of construction, and as Jason was mentioning, the erosion and sediment control, that's all tied in together. So I would start with Greg on that question.
These are all excellent questions, by
Yes.
the way.
I think we've all put a lot of thought into this.
Sure, of course.
There's always that, you want to be heard and you have concerns, but you do realize that life is as it is. I do have 25 signatures and addresses of people that do not want this. Do I think that we can stop it? No. Could we limit it? That would be nice. One of my biggest concerns is all these driveways added to the road, because I think, like me and several other people, we envisioned when you think of subdivision, subdivisions have entrances, and then they fan out into the homes, and you're adding all these driveways straight on this road. Not to mention, are there gonna be ditches? Because with Minnick turns so sharp, there's nowhere for it to go, so,
if there's a roadside ditch, enough of one now, then they'd have to put in a culvert under each driveway if there is enough of a ditch. And that also will require a permit from the city.
where would it go from there? Because it can't,
It'll continue flowing in the direction that the city drainage system is now. I mean, really, okay.
Back on around 723 North 36th Street, they have a very large culvert. They have asked that that be addressed because it floods. When it rains, it floods. I've seen it. It does go away. It doesn't normally require someone to come out, but it doesn't do all the drainage that it's supposed to do for what's already there.
Does the culvert need to be cleaned out? Is that part of the problem? I'm trying to understand.
I think it's just like it has been for so long. The gentleman and the woman that live next to it, he's had his basement flood. He said he's been there, I think he said 6 years. It's flooded 4 times. I don't think the city has ever had to come out, and I think eventually it does go where it needs to go, but it doesn't go fast enough.
Mr. Brookshire, that would definitely be a Greg question, because he is our stormwater drainage engineer.
He needs to know about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's something to mention to
He'd
him.
probably be glad to come take a look if there was
Because
an
you
issue.
know where I'm talking about, down there at Terry's house, there is and when it rains, I mean, it's a river. And that's why I'm saying, if we're gonna add all this, where is it gonna go if it's not taking care of what's down here right now? And then around the curve, I live 3 houses here. I'm here. There's a house here, and there's a house here. She's in the curve. She's had her house flooded. Supposedly, they have fixed it this last time, but it's because of that curve. It's just almost a 90-degree curve if you've been on that road.
Yes.
I'm not an engineer, so I'm not sure where the water is, supposed to go, but it can't go, it only goes one way, and it usually goes in her yard. I know they were worked on it this summer, so that might not be an issue now, but you're adding all these other things. That's why we're worried about, right now, there's not really ditches per se in that land. I've never seen water standing in it. But if you're gonna have all these homes in these driveways, you're gonna have to.
The majority of the water and the runoff from this development drains towards the railroad tracks, and that's why the detention area is placed there. So most of that will run in that direction. So the ditch downstream that you're referring to, there should not be any increase. There may be some just from what's in the driveways out there.
I was trying to say, where does
but
the water on
anything-
their driveway go to?
Most of that water in the ditch that goes that way is coming off the street, so there may be some right up around the beginning of the driveway that will get into that ditch, but the rest of it then will go, I guess that's north, back towards the railroad tracks. If it was draining towards the street, we would have to put a detention area up there, because it would not, because the city doesn't allow any increase in runoff on city right-of-way. And so, in other words.
You've
if-
already surveyed that property
Correct.
to
So in
see
other words,
which
if that-
direction.
If this were to create an issue, then that wouldn't be allowed, and that would have to be addressed and fixed.
Right.
Looking at this, if they have a phase 2, how do these people access their home?
Off of West Jefferson.
Okay. So it's inevitable West Jefferson's going to be opened up.
Well, West Jefferson's open now, and that's how the neighbor, I forget this gentleman, Yancey, sorry, James. That's how they access their property. If anything is built in the future on that back parcel, then West Jefferson, it's already open, but that is the access point to that.
Okay, because that wasn't extremely clear, I don't think. Did y'all think that was extremely clear a while ago?
No.
And how is West Jefferson open? It's a dead end.
Well, I mean, it's open to the public now down to the cul-de-sac. It's open for
So those
public
properties
use to
would
the.
face West Jefferson.
Correct, the cul-de-sac would be the access point for any future development back there.
But West Jefferson wouldn't cross over to 36.
Oh, no, it will not. It would never
It
be,
would remain
it wouldn't continue through, that's correct.
And if you look at the property, if you look at the land that's available, there's not much room there
So
for.
worst case scenario is West Jefferson adds 2 more homes at the end of the road.
2?
Or
Well, I don't know the number, I mean, that's not been decided.
Whatever.
In-
Could be a few, yeah.
If any, it's 8 years, that's,
Right.
you know how it is, it's gonna be a while to process that
Three
all
point
out.
whatever
Like I
acres.
said, I'd be happy to answer any question after, and provide a phone number.
Just know it's 14 lot subdivision for the future. Right?
14 lots now will face 36.
Yes.
And 1 lot for future development. So how big is that first lot? How big is the future lot?
Proposed 14 lot subdivision for 7 townhomes and then 1 lot for future development. So this is what's current, that is for future development.
So there could be 7, could be up to 7 here.
No, there wouldn't be, that wouldn't fit back there.
5.
Well, I don't know.
I don't see how 7's gonna fit there, but I'm not an engineer.
But again, whatever is built back there, that new plan would have to come before the city, before it would ever be approved. So you'd have a chance to comment and look at that as well. When that time comes, it may be next year, maybe 5 years. They don't know at this time.
But these townhouses, because originally you all wanted them like 15 feet from the road.
No?
No.
And now they're like 35. Because
No,
we
never
came
wanted
last
them.
year.
We never wanted them that close. So originally,
Oh, I've got a letter at home. It's 15. It wanted the variance, they wanted 15 feet. So they didn't have to spend as much money
it
tying
was a
into the
15-foot
sewer.
variance. So the front yard setback is established at 40 feet per this zone. So from the center of the street, you measure 50 feet, that gets to the property line. So the city owns all this to that dark line there, that's the property line. And then from there, the zone forces the buildings to be 40 feet from that front yard line, or from the front property line. And what we requested and got approved was a 15-foot reduction, which makes that front yard 25 feet instead of 15. So now you go 50 feet to the property line and then 25 feet to the front of the building. So it reduced that setback from 40 feet to 25 feet, 15-foot reduction.
So how big are these people's driveways?
You're looking at probably, well, you got the 25 and then, let's see, you're 50 feet from the center line. So they're probably going to be 50 to 60 feet long, maybe a little bit longer, probably 60 feet from the edge of pavement.
So if they're not in their garage and they're in their driveway, is there room for a car to pull behind?
Oh, yeah,
So
plenty
the
of room.
company is not out on the street?
Oh, plenty of room, yeah. Actually, more room than most driveways, and the fact that, like we were saying earlier, that's 100-foot right-of-way, which is unheard of. Nowadays, it's usually half that width, so the front yard would be that much closer, which reduces the length of that driveway. If that makes sense. Typically, that property line is going to be way up here. If we're designing a new subdivision by today's standards, that property line is going to be way up here, and these buildings are going to be a lot closer than really what's even allowed in this property.
So from the curve to the end of the property, going to be 14 driveways
Correct.
on an already extremely busy road. Out of curiosity, which one are you proposing you all will build first?
I don't know. Do you know, Sean?
Probably maybe in the middle somewhere. I don't know if it's all right for me to talk, or if I can stand up or go up. I don't want to do anything out of context here.
Who did you say you were?
I'm Sean Newton.
Please come forward.
He's a developer. He owns the
Oh, okay.
property, yeah.
My name's Sean Newton. I'm one of the partners with Cena Development, and I know you're talking about the driveways and stuff like that. Traffic, Pines, right now is a way busier road than 36th Street, and I mean, they're doing the same concept right now on that street, so.
Westwood.
Yes, Westwood, yes. Same way with the drainage. I know you're worried about the drainage and the water. I mean, we're not creating or holding back anything that ain't already raining there right now, that piece of property. And I'm gonna try. I'm not very good at any of this. I'm new to this. I know somebody said something about the noise. We planted a bunch of green mountains, green giants today. We staggered them over the years. They're gonna block a lot of that sound and add some beauty to that. We also, once the homes start building, that's gonna block a lot of the noise too. So, I know there's been a lot of questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer some questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
If anybody has any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer it the best I could.
I'm sorry, Ms. Rayberg, you just keep getting up and getting down.
Again, I'm Nancy Rayberg. I've lived in this neighborhood for 55 years. I raised our two daughters in this neighborhood. There are no sidewalks, but because it is a single-family home neighborhood from 36th, 37th up to Primrose and Woodland, it has been a safe neighborhood to walk and for the children to ride their bikes. It's a diverse neighborhood with homes ranging from probably $150,000 to $1 million in this neighborhood. So it's a very diverse one. And I'm asking, why do they go to a cluster of 14 townhomes? Why not stay with the single-family home? It has made for less traffic in this neighborhood, and it's been a great neighborhood to raise your family. So, and it still is. So I'm asking, why go to a cluster of 14 townhomes? A couple would be fine, but why not stay with the single-family residents?
Well,
Money.
I'm not gonna, we are in business to.
I know.
And these are gonna be high-end townhomes.
Well, no, that's another question. For what price will these townhomes be sold?
It'll be hard to say until we're done being built.
Because you do have the railroad in back of them.
Oh, yeah, that's why we've
I
done
found
everything
out
we can.
you could have 15 trains a day running along that railroad.
Yeah. I've also had some of the neighbors stop by as we were doing it, asking questions, and as usual, I'll answer any questions that I can. And, I've had one stop, Sharon Hall's, I think it's Hall's sister stopped by that lives over in the neighborhood, and that her and her two sisters would like to buy one, and she already lives over in the neighborhood. So, I've already had interest with people that live in the area wanting to buy and live next to each other.
And people have been talking about the water problem.
Yeah.
This area along Phillips Avenue still has the deep ditches. And with the heavy rain, yes, they overflow.
Yeah.
And I imagine you're having the same problem down there on 36. For years, my daily walk was Phillips Avenue. Phillips Avenue extends from 36 to a dead end. My daily walk was Phillips Avenue, 36 to Freedman below Clark School and return. It was a good 2-mile walk. And I could do it without worrying about traffic. So like many of the people have raised the question, this is going to cause a number of additional traffic. You've got a townhome. How many bedrooms do you expect to put in them?
Probably 3 bedrooms.
So there's a family. Families have cars today. So that is going to add a great deal of traffic. I say go to the single-family home and keep it a good neighborhood to raise your family. So that's my question. And you're not telling us how much they're going to go for. We did fight years ago subsidized housing that was going to go into this area, and it got turned down at the time. So that's my, I've got qualms about that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
I was going to say, I think these properties will be for sale. They won't be subsidized.
No,
I assume.
they'll be all for sale. Sorry, I guess step back up here.
What's the square footage of each unit? I think I
Do you
read it,
know that
but-
off the top, Perry's plans?
It's 7,000 total, 3,500 each?
I think
or something
3,500
that?
each, something like
that's
that.
a
I haven't seen the plans.
substantial
Nathan
Nathan
townhouse.
couldn't make it, but he's more of the builder, Nathan Hack, so.
Yeah. And is there what I'm going to refer to as door, property starts at the door and ends at the door? Contract with the home?
Zero
owners?
lot line, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, zero lot
That's it.
line, yeah, I think that's what we are, right, correct,
That's right.
yes.
I know that's very popular, and it's
Yeah.
also very expensive in most
Yeah.
places. I can't say what they would cost,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's upscale, it's not
Yeah, they're gonna be
downscale for the
upscale, it's not
benefit
gonna be
of.
nothing, it should be, I mean, I would be happy if I was in the area and something was being built, I wouldn't wanna be on the lower scale. I'd want it to be, something.
And
making
how
every-
tall are the structures?
I don't know the height, they're single story,
Single
they?
so
story.
just standard, gable, yeah.
So are they similar to what's being built on Pines? Like
Yeah, it's gonna be similar, except the garages will be on the outside, not on the inside, and I don't wanna be frank or anything, but I think the fronts will be a lot nicer than what's being built over there.
And since did you say you're subcontracting or you're a partner, you said?
I'm a partner of this. Nathan Hack, which is a builder, he'll be doing most of the general work, and we'll use our own subs.
Yeah,
And
there was a question about contractor.
that's what I was gonna
earlier.
address, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
local. Oh, yeah,
I know you
great.
said something about the property line. Once we get that marked, I'll be sure I'll go over there personally, stake it out, make sure nobody's in and out of there. We will keep all contractors out of the road the best as we can. If something was said, I'm gonna give you my information. We also have a broom that goes on a skid steer. So as we start construction, I'll make sure it's delivered over there, and we'll try to keep the road as clean as possible. So, I don't wanna drive my vehicle through mud every day either, so.
So they're not townhouses?
They're townhomes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think of them as being more than one story townhouse.
Anybody else got any questions? I'll do the best I can. This is not what I'm used to.
Do you want me to back that up by saying one question?
Sure, of course.
Look at you.
No, I mean, that's what we're here for.
Have you all done any studies as far as across the railroad track is low-income apartments? So you have low-income housing butted right up to the railroad track, and then you have a railroad track that's very active. Do you foresee that people are going to want to be in there? I mean, is that?
That's what I said. I've already had multiple people stop me interested. Done had one realtor call and want a pre-buy unit. So I don't think with the housing problem we have now that there will be any problem selling. I think we'll sell them before they're built. But then again, like I said, I'm new to this. I run other businesses, and I'll try to answer everything as best I can. And won't be vague. I'll be very transparent. If anybody knows me, I'm very transparent. So the driveways, like he's talking about, you're worried about traffic, and them driveways are twice as long. They more than likely can even turn around and face out before they head out, to watch for traffic.
And shine into the houses that all live on.
Well, I mean, that's the same way if you're coming out of your driveway, they're gonna shine into theirs.
Was there ever any consideration to put a road with one entrance for everybody to pull out of their driveway, and then, because Phillips is right here, so
Well, it's
you've got a
0 lot
road.
lines, so each person's gonna own their piece of property, they would be on each other's.
Yeah, and in order to do one road, you would have to dedicate right of way, and there's just not enough room to dedicate a new street.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns?
What could this do? I'll come up here,
Yeah.
I guess. As the lady spoke earlier, some of these homes, I'm Caleb Darnell, 754 West Jefferson. These homes were built in the 50s. I think mine was built in 67 on West Jefferson. What could these high-end townhomes do to our property taxes since they are being sold and not rental? Could that have an effect, or is this it might not be the right place to ask that, but we're talking about, on my street, $150,000 homes.
That question would be best to go to Bill Dunn at the Property Valuation Administration.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I feel like there's more than one person that had concern that there was a little confusion too about whether West Jefferson could ever be extended, and it sounded to me like the concern was whether it could be extended and connected to 36th Street so that there's through traffic. But it doesn't look to me like on this plat, as it's platted, that's even a possibility.
No, that's not a possibility.
Because there's 14 units and there's not enough room anywhere to put
No,
cut
we're
through.
gonna use all the 36 side, so no, there won't be no pass-through road.
Any other questions or comments?
Josh, can you tell us our criteria for voting on this? Legally speaking, what we have to consider in proposing or approving or denying a plat?
Sure. I can tell you that as presented tonight, the 14 lots do meet the R1 zone as far as area. The minimum is 7,000 square feet, and the frontage is 75 feet per structure. So each structure has minimum 75, well over 100 for the smallest one, and the smallest lot size is 7,015 square feet. So they meet the R1 zone requirements at this time.
So if it's a principally permitted use and the developer's in compliance with all of the ordinances pertaining to those lots, statutes and ordinances tell us to approve it?
Right. Staff didn't see anything that would prohibit the approval of the plat. Staff did have one comment, which since there's not going to be any proposed sidewalks, to include that as a note on the final plat.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, please.
I'm Megan Broussard, again, 784 North 37th Street, so a block over from this development. I was curious, I have children, 3 children in the Paducah school system. This is 14 more homes, 14 more families that could be moving into the school system. Is there any study about how that's going to impact how the school's going and the development on Pines? I mean, the school's pretty maxed out as far as being an older school. Where are these kids going to go to school? It's kind of a thought that I was thinking
It's a
about.
good question. I think you're going to find, and this is just purely what I've seen in developments across Paducah, is that a lot of these will be bought by retirees who are looking to have no property that they have to take care of, one story, low maintenance. That's what a lot of it, I think, will wind up being, but I don't know that to be
Yeah.
a fact.
It's
I've seen
just-
that in a lot of other areas.
Yeah, it's in the Clark School District, which is like the
Absolutely.
most popular
I've seen that
school for elementary school in Paducah, and I know it's already like pretty maxed out on kids. So I know our neighborhood's pretty full of young families.
I think you're right.
It
If
has a-
every single one of these wound up having
I think it could have a
2 or 3
substantial
children,
impact.
it would be a problem.
Yeah.
It could be.
In addition to the, like, Westwood neighborhood families that are moving in. I mean, definitely something infrastructure-wise that should be considered.
Sure. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Is there anything in planning and zoning that triggers some of these aspects, like the school system? You connect with that, or?
Oh, we
Anything?
generally don't because it's a separate entity. The Paducah Independent
Right.
School District is the official body that would need to study that. But as far as planning and zoning, there's nothing that relates to it. We simply go by KRS 100, which for you all, state statute is what we go by is KRS 100 in state law. That spells out in our zoning ordinance the standards, and if it meets the standards, that's what staff relays to this body. Or if it doesn't meet the standards, conversely, we relay that to this body as well. In this case, as far as the width, as far as the lot area, it did meet the standards, so that's what staff has recommended to the Planning Commission is for approval.
But many of these things are not controlled by us. I wouldn't want the public to think
Exactly.
that
We
somehow
don't
we
have any-
control traffic and we control water flow and
Yeah.
all these things. It's not even triggered by us. We don't have any, that KRS 100 kind of controls us, and that's,
But to your point, you're exactly right. Aside from this is preliminary subdivision that comes, and then once, if you guys were to approve, then we've done a full set of site development plans. It talks about grading and drainage and runoff, and all that has to be approved by the Planning and Zoning Department and the Engineering and Public Works Department prior to building permits being issued. So there'll be a much more in-depth study that other departments in the city will look at and have to approve.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure the public
Yeah.
always knows that.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, good point. It's not like today is it. They'll start building tomorrow. There's other steps that we have to go through as well.
Because we hear these same things, traffic, and we're always concerned too. I mean, we live here.
We don't.
Sure.
Concerned about these same things, the flooding, water flow, traffic flow, number of houses, schooling, all these same things, but they're generally beyond
Our scope.
our scope. Thank you.
Not that they aren't good questions, they certainly are, but it's not part of what we're supposed to consider. Are there any other questions, comments? Sure.
This is a strange question. We got the letter for the hearing. From what I understood on the back of the paper, it was because it was more than 5 dwellings, am I correct?
Lots.
Lots, okay. With that being said, is that because we could possibly influence that it could not be 7? What's our, you know what our purpose is, we're trying to eliminate so much development. What am I trying to say? What could we have influenced? What was our purpose? You know, what could our outcome be for showing up, for getting a petition, for having these concerns? Was this just to ask questions, or were we having the ability to be influential whatsoever?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Ms. Brookshire, one thing that I would like to point out, based on the frontage, they could have built up to 11 structures, so they're actually building to a less density than what would be allowed. So I commend the developer for that, for not maxing out the property side by side, side to side. But there was, like I say, the standards in the R1 zone is what guided staff's report to this body based on the R1 zone and what the standards.
So the R1 standard zone is 5 or less?
Well, that's anywhere in the city. It's what we call a major subdivision. If 5 or more lots or public right-of-way is dedicated, then it comes before this body. If 4 or less lots are being created, then it's just an in-house review that staff takes care of. But a lot of cities across Kentucky have adopted the in-house plat review as a way to make plats move a little bit faster through the system. But for larger developments such as this, we do want to make sure that the public is heard and can come and speak and address concerns, which we've heard a lot of good concerns tonight. And so that was the purpose of getting the notice.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the developer has heard you. Is that correct? Yeah. And I think some of the things that you brought up, the good points and the good questions, will probably be addressed by the city and by the developer. Are there any other comments, questions? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing then. And would you read one more time, read the...
I move that the preliminary subdivision plat for 800 North 36th Street be approved and that the matter be continued generally pending submission of a final plat incorporating all requirements made known to the petitioner at the conclusion of the hearing.
That was already seconded, right?
It's already a second. We're just reviewing what it was. It's been a while since we read it, so we wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to hear what what the motion is.
And if I could elaborate just a little bit on what the pending generally means for the audience. What that means is that whenever these comments that are heard tonight, the developer has a chance to go back and incorporate that in their final plan, to make sure that any comments mentioned by this body or you all as the public can be reflected in what the official submittal is at a later time. So that's what that means, is being submitted generally, is there's no hard and fast deadline to get it to us. They want to make their plans appropriate to what they heard tonight.
And Mr. Summer, they do have access to this if they want it, correct?
I
Or
can
the
make it-
finished item?
I'm not, well, not so much the finish, no, because that's something that just comes to this body, because this is the public hearing for
The public doesn't have access to these?
they can't, on that public notice that sent
Yes, sir.
out, had my name, my email, and I did email it to somebody in the neighborhood. I don't know if they're here tonight, but at least one person did ask for that, and they did get the plat.
I was thinking you put them up online. Why was I thinking?
It's a public record, so I mean,
Yes.
it is available to the public in a general sense, yeah.
Now, the agenda is publicized on the website, so that everybody knows what is going to be on tonight's agenda. Same way with the BOA, same way with the HARC and any other body that meets here.
Sounds like we were making a distinction there between whether it is already available for somebody to go and pull it from the website or publicly versus whether they can call and ask for it. Yes, they can call and ask for it.
Yep.
Your website is set down for maintenance.
Yeah, there was some issue with the
Yes,
website I read on.
it's our company servers. And it's out of
Something's
our
down.
hands.
Yeah.
And I apologize for the website being down, but that is a third-party server that maintains that, and they do have it down, and like I said, I do apologize, but this plan wouldn't have been on there anyway.
I have one question.
Sure.
Am I able to ask it? It's a.
I've already closed the public hearing, but if you have a question, that's,
Where are their mailboxes going to be?
That will be on postal system. That ain't something I can answer.
The person to talk to about that would be Todd Hawks at the post office.
That's a post office decision.
Yeah.
Surely there's not going to be 14 on,
no,
It's,
they won't do that, trust me.
I hope not.
In the newer developments, not only for something like this, but also for like shopping centers, what the post office has gone to requiring is a central mailbox with, everybody has their own key. That's what I've seen lately. But you may want to call Todd at the post office and inquire about that specifically.
I have friends who live in a project, a 6-apartment building, and they have one for just 6 apartments. So I'm sure that the Postal Service would require that. Any other questions, comments? I have closed the public hearing. Are you all ready for the vote? Do you have any questions? Questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wade,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradford,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Pollard,
I,
Chair Casilius.
Aye. We thank you all for being here tonight. We have heard you, and I think the developer and the city have heard you. So if you don't get answers to the problems that you brought up tonight, that the city needs to be referring to, please don't hesitate to call and tell them what those problems are, because they can't fix them if they don't know about them, okay? Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. This meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is January the 5th, and we are adjourned at 6:38.